All right, today we have Mr. Paulie Ayala. Paulie, man, thank you very much for coming on to TheBoxingBar.com, man, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Paulie, let's get to know you a little bit. Where were you born and raised?
I was born here in Fort Worth, Texas, where I live and have always lived.
And what was it like being born and raised there?
Well, I like it. Because mainly my family's here. For boxing, it was good back when I grew up because it was popular back in the 70s, and I remember fighting on amateur teams with Donald Curry and Steve Cruz and even Bruce Curry, which later became world champions. So, it was pretty neat.
How was it that you first went into boxing, or how did boxing fall into your life?
Well, my father did it, in the amateurs when he was young. Of course, he went to the Marines and, didn't pursue anything, but he was a boxing fan. And my brother started doing it, and Paul Reyes, who trained Don Curry, is a relative. He's my dad's cousin. So, he had the boxing team back then, and my brother started doing it, and, I wanted to do it because he was doing it, and, it started from there.
Your amateur record, what was that?
It was like 288 and like 27.
Do you think it's important for a boxer to have a nice, extensive amateur career so they can be good in the pros, or, does it matter in the first place? What do you think about that?
I think it matters. I don't think necessarily the 300 fights like I had, but I think it has to be quality. I think they have to prove themselves. At least, winning a state and nationals would be preferred, because that way, the thing is that you have to see if this kid has got discipline. If you could do that for trophies and medals and just for pride's sake, because that's basically what you're doing in the amateurs. You're not, you're winning titles and medals. There's no money and, there's a little glory in it, but not really unless you're an Olympian. You're going to get the exposure. But, if you can have the composure and the discipline and the will and the drive to be able to do that, then, at least you're coming out with a better chance, at least with your resume on being able to be a little more successful in the pros. But, it don't always work like that. It's just like, in the past, you've seen, Olympians that have turned pro, and, it's the transition of amateur to pro that, it wasn't as successful. So, but at least, I think it is important, though.
Yeah, no, I've heard different people say different things. I usually ask this question to a variety of people, whether it be trainers or fighters or whatnot, and they always have totally different answers from each other. There's some that say it's the most important thing. I know Manuel Stewart used to always say it was, that's a reason why boxers aren't the way they used to be, is because they don't have an extensive amateur career. But then you see that other side, you see guys that have, like you said, 300, 400, 500.
Right, yeah, and maybe not necessarily the fights, but the abuse on the body from the training and stuff. And plus too, in the amateurs, you can fight at a high level. If you're on the U.S. team and you're fighting at a national level on a regular basis, you're fighting the top guys and even future champions. Down the line. I remember I fought Eddie Cook, who became world champion. David Santos, I think he won. I remember fighting Frankie Toledo. I fought a lot of top guys that did well in the pros also.
And you go on and become a pro yourself thereafter. What was it like, man, before your pro debut, being in the locker room before you walk out there, as a pro for the first time? What did that feel like in the locker room before your pro fight, your first pro fight?
I really. It didn't hit me until I was putting on the gloves. When they slipped on, they were brand new gloves, Coleto Reyes, the 8-ounce gloves, and it just felt like I was wearing nothing on my hands, I was just thinking about all the damage that I could do with them. But then I started realizing real quick, I was like, oh shoot, he's got the same size gloves I do. So reality started hitting me for a second, but of course, you get in the ring, all that goes out the window, and you focus on the game plan.
And you rack up a nice amount of victories, man. What do you think your strengths were in your first, let's say, dozen or 20 fights or so, what would you say were your biggest advantages or your strengths?
My first fights, I just, for one, it was my confidence, it's the mental, because by far I surely wasn't the most talented guy out there, or even close. But everything that I did, every tool that I did have, I tried to sharpen it the best that I could, and I was confident that I could win. I believed it. I didn't just say it, but I truly believed that I was going to be world champion. But that, and then I was able to adapt. I knew how to fight. I've been fighting for so long, so I knew how to fight every style, and be effective.
And you're 25-0 when you went in there to Japan to fight Tatsuyoshi. What was that fight like, man? I know you were penalized during the fight for a headbutt, and then the fight was stopped in the 6th round to a technical decision where you lost for the first time. What do you remember about that particular fight in Japan?
I was excited for one for getting a title shot because it took me 6 years to get one. I had been an NABF champion for 3 years, and I think I defended like 7 times. So I was thinking I was never going to get a title shot. So, of course I was excited, but, I had Tatsuyoshi cut on one of his eyes, and, I had buckled him already in the first round. So, it was just a matter of time. But, yeah, we did accidentally headbutt, and they deducted 2 points for me. And, losing that was devastating for me. But, with the permission of my wife, because, you have to be in agreement, so that way I could focus. I asked her how she felt about the fight, because I was confident that I had won the fight, had it pursued. And she told me the same. So I just asked her, if she'd mind if I keep, continue fighting, because I still had a lot of fight left in me. And, I wasn't even confident I was going to get another title shot. But, she allowed me to keep fighting, man, and let me get it out of my system.
And after that fight, you win a few fights. Then you fight a guy that we all know, of course, maybe the Loca, Johnny Tapia. What was it like for you to hear that news that you were going to fight the WBA World Champion now, Johnny Tapia? What was that news for you like?
Of course, that was super exciting because I didn't have to wait 6 years. It took me 6 months, and so 6 months from when I heard it, and I had watched Johnny when he first started, so I was excited. It was a chance to become champion, and it was a chance to fight one of the best champions out there.
And it was a great fight. While you guys were fighting, how did it feel being in there to fight, somebody like that? What do you remember about his style, the way he was, the way he fought? Was he a strong fighter, elusive, and all that stuff? What was it like fighting Johnny Tapia?
Really, I don't think it was really a problem. But up until the 10th, 11th, and 12th, he really, he picked up his energy, his strength. His speed. He knew how to dig deep. And that's what that fight really showed me. How the will, overcomes the skill and everything else too. I was just, I wanted to win badder than I was hurting and fatigued. That was something I wanted to do more than anything. So, but yeah, that's definitely. It was an honor. This guy's going to be, a Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, what happened to him last year. He's not going to get to see that. But just to have that opportunity to fight him and be the first one to ever beat him, whether it be controversial in other people's eyes, I knew in my eyes that I had beat him.
And was there animosity between the both of you before, during, or after that particular fight? Was there something that you guys might have had against each other, whether it been you or him or both of you guys?
I don't. Of course, there was nothing personal. How about that? It was just about wanting to be champion. He knew I wanted that title, and he had been in that position before, where the hungry challenger once wanted his title. And, I think that's basically what it was all about. I didn't see, even if it appeared personal, it really, to me, that's what it was about.
And the following year, he gets a rematch with you, and you again beat him by decision. Both fights, I think, it seemed like the crowd was divided on who they thought. Some thought, you won. Some thought he won. I think it was just one of those style fights, like the Marquez fights against Pacquiao. Some people thought Marquez won all of them. Some people thought Pacquiao won all of them, except the last one, of course. But, it did seem like you guys had contrasting styles, so it depended on, who the person was judging that fight or both of your fights. What do you remember about the second fight and getting that second victory over him?
Actually, making the second fight was harder than the first fight because I had to make all the concessions to even make that fight happen. And, I had to give him a bigger purse than I got. I had to walk out before me, to announce his name before me, or after me, excuse me. So, I made a lot of concessions just to make that fight, but that's how confident I knew I beat him the first fight, because I was willing to give whatever it took, just so that way I could prove. It didn't matter how close the fight was. That's just how confident I was that I could do it again. And yeah, I think the second one was even probably closer than the first one. But regardless, I felt that I had won.
He seemed to be very ticked off after he lost a decision there that second time. He just pretty much walked out of the ring, pissed off. Did you guys ever talk after that, or were you guys friends after that, or did you ever even see each other, again after that?
Actually, for a few years, he was pretty upset with everything with our history together, and it went to, I think it was 2004. We started talking again, and he actually came down from one of my fights as a guest. So yeah, we definitely made up. It just, it was just, when it's a bad experience and you're not used to losing, and you feel that you've won. He took it personal, I guess. But regardless, yeah, we did make up.
That's great to hear, Paulie.
His funeral, I went to pay my condolences to Teresa, because if it wasn't for Johnny, I never would have got. I don't think I ever would have had another shot, or I would have even been able to accomplish anything that I have. But if it wasn't for Johnny, as far as the post world championship experience.
How did you find out, and how did you feel when you heard the news last year when he passed away?
Oh man, it was terrible. Terrible news. As soon as I heard it, I called my wife, and I was at the gym, and she when I had talked to her, I was like, did you hear? Somebody had called me that evening, and so immediately, we started finding out what the funeral arrangements were, and we started making our arrangements to go to attend that. I just again, I felt an obligation, because if it wasn't for Johnny, I never would have had a shot. I believe I never would have had a shot to accomplishing what I have, and so again, we became friends again. We made up, and which is rare in boxing. I'm not sure everybody's buddy that fights, but we had a mutual respect, and we did keep in touch.
And during you guys' two fights there, you had got awarded with Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year. When you get honored like that, what does it do for you personally and professionally?
Oh, to get acknowledged by your peers like that, obviously it feels great. You get the world title, but you get the cake, but then, you get the icing on it. And then, so whatever award you get, and you're competing against all your peers, and you look at all the great fighters that were out there fighting, it's nothing but an honor.
And actually, I found that cassette. I recorded that on video. I think it was on a Spanish telecast. And Lupe Contreras, actually, who I had on a few weeks back, gave you that belt in the ring, or made the announcement there when they handed you that title there. And I actually posted it on YouTube late last year, I believe. And, you could probably catch that on there, okay, whenever you get a chance. But Bones Adams was next, man. You get 2 decision victories over him. How was it like fighting against Bones Adams? He was a very popular guy. Those fights were very big. What do you remember about fighting Bones Adams?
Yeah, I think Tapia and Bones were 4 big defining fights. It was just good. Because they were name fighters. I was trying to be a name fighter, and when you have that type of matchup, it's successful for everybody. The fans win because they get to see the fight. The fighters win because they get to see who's the best, but also we get compensated, you know, in a way that normally you don't get compensated if there is no adversary that people want to see, or, you know, you got guys coming in from out of overseas that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, you're having popular matchups. So, I mean, it was good. I think it was good for me. It was good for Bones. It was good for Johnny, and it was good for boxing.
And you had come up in weight and fought two of the biggest Mexican champions, two of the biggest names in recent times anyways, Marco Antonio Barrera and Erik Morales. And, you know, you lose those, but you gain the respect of all the people, of all your peers, and of those two fighters. What do you remember about fighting those two particular fighters there?
Well, shoot, I mean, of course you hate losing, but, I mean, to be able to be considered a matchup for them, I mean, that's an honor, because I'm a big boxing fan, man. I mean, I love boxing. Everything I do, my whole life has been boxing. When I retired, opened the gym, I started a little amateur team. I started promoting in 2009, I mean, out of my own dime. I mean, I still promote. So everything I do is boxing. So to be able to, you know, I'm a fan, and to be able to fight guys that you've watched and admired and respect, just to see the competitive edge. I honestly believe that, you know, I could beat them, but, you know, even though I fell short, I just felt that it was an honor that I got to give it a shot. You know, at least I don't have to look back at the end of the day of my life and see that I didn't give it my all. You know, I gave it my all, and I was able to compete with the highest guys. I was able to make money that very few champions make, and it was because of that, those opportunities like that, you know, I'm grateful for it.
And in 2004, you made your last fight there against Marco Antonio Barrera. How did you know it was time to hang him up? You know, was there certain things that were going on? Why did you decide to retire after that fight?
Yeah, there were things going on. I mean, during my training camp, I got injured a lot. I was having to see a chiropractor like 3 times a week during camps, that camp especially. Started, you know, just having knee problems with running, and running became a hard task to do. You know, I mean, just everything was starting to take a toll. My body was obviously giving me signs. And, of course, you know, you want to ignore those, but still, whenever going into the bout, and then that being the first fight I've ever been stopped in my whole life, you know, it just told me, you know, that, well, for one, I hadn't fought in over a year, almost, prior to that fight. So, and even before that, you know, even before I fought Morales, I mean, it was just a long time span in between. And even though champions can do that, unfortunately for me, I didn't feel that I was the type that I could take so long of a break, 9 months, 11 months in between fights, to be able, and then stay at that level with those caliber of fighters. And because, you know, that had been happening to me for the 2 years prior to that, I just, and then with that loss, I just felt that it was time, you know, my body giving me those signs, and it was time.
Now, after, you know, all your career's over and stuff, and do you ever feel like any of the, you know, aches or pains from your boxing career, all your years around the sport? Do you have any of that, all those, you know, like any kind of symptoms of anything like that?
Absolutely not. No, not one injury.
That's good to hear, and it's not common either.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, I didn't want to be the norm of the whole fighter issues, because of being stubborn and not wanting to retire. And, I still have fight in me. I've seen great fighters deteriorate because of remaining in the sport. And what made me an exception, especially when, you know, you see these great fighters and what happens to them afterwards. I didn't feel like I was any different, so that's why I went ahead and did it too. I mean, believe me, I knew the life after boxing was going to be a lot longer than my window of opportunity in the boxing, so I just didn't want to be a liability to my family.
Is there any, like, regrets that you have in your career that you would change if you could?
Yeah, absolutely. I would have learned more, a little more fluent Spanish instead of Spanglish, and then I would have talked more trash too.
Because now you're starting to see that type of stuff sells, right?
Yeah, well, it just sells tickets, and I mean, whether you're a good guy, you're an honest guy, whether you have good character, it really doesn't matter to fans. I mean, most of them are fake anyway. There's a lot of fake ones, but then you got your small group of of fans that just love the sport, and so it really didn't matter as long as they were buying tickets. I think that's all that matters at the end of the day.
That's right, man. Putting asses in seats, that's all that matters.
Yeah, on a business standpoint, it is. I mean, because I can clearly remember back when we were looking to do a fight. You asked if there was guys that I regret not fighting. During one of those times back in '02 when there was nothing going on, I approached Bob Arum and I had a meeting and I asked him. I said, "Hey, well, what about me unifying a title with Timmy Austin? I mean, he's in the pound for pound list, and I know I can beat Tim Austin. I know he hits hard, but that doesn't scare me. I mean, I think I'm a better fighter than him." And his response to me was, "Timmy can't even attract flies in his hometown." So that right there showed me the whole business aspect of it, because it wasn't just about making fights, but it's about getting paid to make good fights too. And so that's what I try to emphasize with fighters. If people don't like to see you fight, if you're boring, even if you're good, you're never going to get paid with these other guys, or what you read, or what you see on 24/7 or 360 fighters are getting, because if you don't sell tickets and you're just people want to come and see you, but they're wanting handout tickets, you're not going to get paid.
That's very true, and Bob Arum is a smart man. A little bit ago you talked about promoting yourself. You have PAP, Paulie Ayala Promotions, going on over there. What does it feel like being a promoter now, from going to boxer to being a promoter? Tell us a little bit about that.
I think promoting is definitely harder. It's extremely hard because you have so many different variables, and this isn't like this sport isn't like a league or organization where everybody comes together and tries to put things for the better of the sport. I mean, to each his own. Everybody's on their own. It's based on good old boy relationships, and even in spite of what I've accomplished in the ring, it means absolutely nothing as a promoter. So, and even though, I mean, you could say Golden Boy crossed over well, but I mean, you look at the big picture. How many ex-fighters actually come into promoting? I mean, you got guys that are fighting and putting their banner promotions as they fight, but literally throwing fights and being successful. I mean, the ratio is so few and far between, because it is so difficult to break through on this side of the aspect, and which I mean, as far as my experience, I just think I know I can do, and I'm willing to hustle the way I did as a fighter, and that's why I've been able to succeed for so long as a promoter, because it is, like I said, it is so difficult, especially with today's fighters. They're not the same. And I remember back in '02 going to the Boxing Hall of Fame as a guest, and talking to the older fighters then, and they said the same thing about us, that we weren't the same as them. But I guess 10 years now, or it's almost 10 years since I've been retired, I think the sport has been watered down even more. I mean, these fighters, they're not willing to go through the process that it takes in order to be champion. Now I think what's being done as a promoter, and what I see as these fighters, what they're satisfied and they're comfortable with just being opponents and making now money, which isn't really, it's a few hundred, maybe a couple thousand more than looking at the big picture down the line. I mean, they're willing to be opponents and fight on the who's who card than to build up their records, even though they're not getting paid as much, but to groom themselves and develop themselves in the ring to fight for that title. They're willing to take these fights now unprepared, just for the upfront money. Everybody goes and has a good time, but they get their butt kicked, and then at the end of the day, they sit back and they realize that they just played into the system. It's totally different. It's a totally different generation.
I'm from Oxnard, California, and one of our big guys from around your time, Fernando Vargas. I remember when he fought in Texas, and he loaded the place up, and he always talks about it, in a very fond way. That was one of his best experiences of going to Texas and fighting. And in the recent past, you've seen Pacquiao go over there, a few times, and a lot of big fights. Chavez Jr. has fought over there. Mikey Garcia just recently fought over there, and a lot of fights are starting to move over to Texas. How do you feel about that, of the Texas boxing scene, whether it be through a promotional standpoint or just a boxing fan, like you say, standpoint? How do you see boxing in Texas, how it's really starting to blow up there?
Well, I mean, I think it's, for me personally, for these big fighters, I mean, Pacquiao that came and filled 80,000 seats at the Cowboy Stadium. I mean, if you can negotiate a piece of the gate, plus, your pay-per-view sales, why would you not do something to try to generate more money while you're fighting? I mean, especially, the only downfall to fighting in Texas is there just isn't as many activities to do before the fight or after the fight as compared to Vegas. But I mean, other than that, if it's for the fighter's sake and they can fill out arenas like this, I mean, I think it's a good deal for boxing or for fighters that can be able to accomplish something like that.
Do you ever take advantage of these big events, like maybe the night before on a Friday night, maybe have a card yourself, near the event or by there, when there's fights there in Texas like that?
You know what? That's funny you say that, because this last HBO fight, I just feel that right now the Metroplex of DFW really isn't quite there to do two cards back to back. And because, again, my overhead, it costs the same whether I have TV help or not. I mean, it's expensive overhead to do small shows, and I didn't want to risk people just going to the HBO fight and the Mikey Garcia fight or the Top Rank fight or the Foreman and Sons fight. There were all those titles that they could throw on there that I was going to get, Mark Cuban or the American Airlines. I'd throw these small fights. So, and I think it would have worked if I would have been able to get some Top Rank fighters on my card, to kind of complement to be like a pre-fight entertainment for the next night. That would have worked out, but I wasn't able to get any cooperation from anything. So, but I think San Antonio. I mean, I think Leja and Bata and Golden Boy. I think they're all working together, and I think they're making. I think it would be a better situation out there just because of that. But right now, I just don't think Dallas-Fort Worth is quite ready, because San Antonio only has the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, Dallas-Fort Worth, we have the Rangers, the Stars, the Mavericks, the Cowboys. We got TCU. I mean, so we have all these other sports, professional sports around here that to compete with. So that's why I feel that right now it's just not this area isn't good for something like that.
Having been a boxer and knowing what it would be like to, get screwed over or get ripped off somehow, how do you apply that knowledge, onto becoming a promoter yourself and, maybe not doing that stuff yourself because you know what it feels like on the other end?
Well, I mean, I try to educate the fighter, but as you do that, I don't know if you help or hurt them. I mean, I think it's maybe better that they don't know, because then it gets to their head that they're as good as a Manny Pacquiao or these as a Mikey Garcia. So then they want the same treatment, but yet they haven't had the same accomplishment. So it's there's a catch-22 to that. But I try to make it fair for everybody. All I want to do, the thing that this sport has done to shoot itself in the foot is making crap fights. And when you make an uncompetitive fight, the boxing fan, they love boxing, so they'll put up with it. But it's the sports fans that we've lost. The ones on the fence line that want to see fights, but they want competitive fights. That's why I think MMA became so popular. But even right now, they're in a transition, so they're not even capturing those sports fans, and that's where the real money for the sports are going to come in. Is it's just basically making competitive fights. But that's where the problem comes with different promoters and again the fighters themselves not wanting to fight each other because they're wanting the ridiculous paydays to make a fight happen when you look at the demographics and the statistics. If they can't fill the whole arena, then they don't deserve that type of money. Just make the fight, and just because you beat the champion, you beat the cash cow. That doesn't make you the cash cow. Eventually you'll get there, but a one-time, one-stop shop opportunity, and you do that, it doesn't guarantee. It takes time, and that's the thing. These people, these fighters, they're not willing to put that kind of time.
Do you ever sit on the outside and while you're watching a fight and say to yourself, maybe I can still do this, or maybe I can come back and have another run? Do you ever think of that type of stuff while you're watching fights now?
I don't do that, but when I break down fights, I look at what I would have done if I was fighting those fighters, and if I would be effective against a style like that. And but as far as coming back and all that, no, I don't think like that. But I do try to put my style against fighters and see, just try to run it through in my head if I would have been as successful today as I was when I fought.
In a way, you have come out of retirement because you've taken on this opponent called Parkinson's disease, man. How and why did you get into that fight against Parkinson's? How did you start that?
Well, first 2 years ago, it'll be 2 years in September actually. This lady, I started doing the class, but 2 years ago in January, this lady had came and approached me. That she was in her 40s, early 40s, and she had Parkinson's, and it was diagnosed as a young onset Parkinson's. And she told me about a study that had been done in the University of Indiana with a Parkinson's group, a controlled group that underwent a boxing training class, and they had them set for say 6 weeks during the test duration, and they seen the benefits of it with their hand-eye coordination, their fast twitch muscles, and of course their foot coordination and the conditioning overall. But also it helped them reduce from the medication, because there is no cure for the Parkinson's. That's all they're doing is medicating these people until the disease takes over. And a lot of the medication, they have to take medication for that, for the side effects of all that. So it just adds up and compounds. And when she told me all that, I thought about it. I didn't see her for about 6 months because she was trying to get the Parkinson's Foundation in North Texas to associate with it. And 6 months later, she came back, and nothing had been done. And I just told her, I think, well, since she approached me, I've seen it as a challenge, and I don't know. I'm not going to say what gym it was, but just that same competitive person that I am. That's the thing. I wanted to come out with a lot of fight left and to do whatever it was that God has me to do. So, and in this case, in defeating and battling this Parkinson's, I'm going to try to do the best job, better than anybody has done or is doing, to help fight this. So that's why I felt it as a challenge, and I accepted the challenge, and that's how I got it started.
And we've seen a lot of wives on TV cry when their husbands get beat up or get escorted out or whatever. But your wife Letty has always seemed to be strong there, always by your side, in the ring with you when you used to fight. We used to always see her around the ringside. Is she around, or is she like very involved in all these other things you do, like your promotion company, your fight here against Parkinson's? Is she a part of your everyday operations?
Absolutely. She's my partner in everything that I do. We've worked together for many years now, and so yeah, she's definitely around, and she helps me. She's the one who helps me organize all this.
And now that your pro career is over with, and you're on to your new ventures. After all is said and done, Paulie, how do you want people, and what I call the 3 big Fs, your family, your friends, your fans, how do you want them to remember Paulie Ayala?
Somebody who gave his best, who of course, gave them everything, who loved them unconditionally, and who gave back to the community. And hopefully one of these organizations that I have hopefully they'll continue and a legacy. So even after I'm gone, it'll be something that'll continue to keep giving.
And not that you're going anywhere, because you're going to be around for another 100 years, my man. Paulie, thank you very much for coming out to TheBoxingBar.com, man, and hopefully, down the line, or we could go ahead and chat and talk boxing,
absolutely.
man.
Absolutely, no problem. Anytime. That's all like I said. Boxing's my life, and I'll be here.
Thank you very much, Paulie, and good luck to you on everything, man.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.